Hello ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to Blood Bowl. Today we're doing Deluge Pro Tips Part 2, and we will be talking a bit about bad habits and decision making and how to improve on these things. But first, let's talk a bit about misunderstood skills. Let's start out with the piling on skill. As many of you may know, using piling on will allow me to re-roll my casualty on my target. Now in this case, the thrall that I punched, number 7, got a prone as I succeeded in breaking his armor, but I didn't break injury. If I use piling on now, I go directly on to injury. I don't have to roll for armor again, as I already broke it. If he was prone on the field, if I didn't break the armor value in the first try, then piling on would have to break armor again. If he was KO'd and I then use piling on, then I can risk him only being stunned on the field as I re-roll the injury roll. But of course he can also get badly hurt. Now another skill that I'd like to talk about is the pass block skill. It's not as much a misunderstood skill as it's simply underused, and people don't tend to know exactly how it works. If I attempt to make a passing action within 3 squares of a pass block player being able to intercept, I can then move that pass block player within interception range. Do note that I cannot move away from it all. I have to move into one of these blue squares, and also any player except for the thrower will exert a tackle zone that will cause me to dodge. If I roll a Bloodlust and move into interception range, I won't have to use or fulfill my Bloodlust criteria before the pass action is completed. Now I have to get within range of a thrall to not get sent off the field, to bite an audience instead. Also do note that if I use my pass block to go into interception range, I still get a -2 to my interception. It might be worth trying to interrupt the thrower or the catcher, giving them a -1 modifier, rather than actually trying to intercept the ball. Now, another thing worth noting about pass block is the fact that you can use leap on pass block. And then move in and intercept the ball. And now I'd like to talk about the most misunderstood skill in the game, Decay. It's a common misconception that Decay means rolling twice on the injury table, when in fact it means rolling twice on the casualty table. I have here a troll in disguise with 9 armor value, and a Tomb Guardian also with 9 armor value. A foul on both of them would need a 10 to bypass the armor, and another 10 to get onto the casualty table. Now, Decay doesn't affect any of this, but if I do pass the armor roll and I do pass the injury roll, then this player has a 50% chance of getting a badly hurt and a 50% chance of getting missed next game or a permanent injury, for instance a minus stat. This player, however, as he has Decay, has a 25% chance of getting badly hurt and 75% chance of getting a permanent injury or a miss next game. However, this player has regeneration, so that means that half of those rolls are totally nullified, which means that he only has a 37.5% chance of getting a miss next game or a permanent injury. So there's really no reason at all to chant on "Come on, Decay" when you're fouling a Tomb Guardian. Next up we have Nerves of Steel. Now to note here is that Nerves of Steel only affects tackle zones. It doesn't remove modifiers from things like Disturbing Presence or sunny or rainy weather. Also, Disturbing Presence works in a three square radius around the player and affects passes, catches and interceptions, but not pickups. So if I do this, I get the Disturbing Presence modifier on the launch and also on the catch if it hadn't been a critical success. Let's talk about bad habits and how to break them. A typical habit would be to move assists up as far as they can reach without considering other alternatives. I even do this from time to time. In my opinion, the key to Blood Bowl is to have a reason for everything. Like, I'm moving this player here instead of here because then he's closer to the ball. Or, I want to do this pickup before I do this block because I feel this pickup is more important than the block. Which is fine. It might not be the correct choice, but you made a choice by reasoning. That choice you can then later regret and learn something from. If you never make a choice but just do something by default automatically, then you'll never learn from making that mistake. Another common one is when running receivers up the field. A lot of players, and especially Pro Elf players, has a tendency to choose to run the receivers as far as they can up the field. Let's take a look at the pros and cons of running this far up the field. Now, the pros of them being so far up could be that if they're knocked down, then they can dodge out and still reach the end zone and receive the ball from there. However, having more than one receiver should really solve that problem. Now, with your receivers this far up the field, they're acting as better decoys, as if your opponent is covering them, his players will be further up the field and not so close to the middle, and you can more easily convert into doing a cage and move up the field. And thirdly, your receivers will be further from the middle as well, which means that getting assists for doing a foul for him would be harder, and also, in this case, you'll be more likely to be out of his Disturbing Presence range. Now, the bad things about having your receivers so far up the field is that you're making the throw harder for yourself, as your receivers could potentially reach the end zone from here. Also, blitzing your receivers free if you don't want to dodge out into tackle zones is only rendered harder by them being so far away. Now, another common habit is when blocking players. If you knock an opponent down, a lot of agility teams and other ammo value 7 teams have a tendency to think, well, I don't want to get into trouble, I want to push players away. When really, all this is doing is saying, you can move wherever you want to if you put him out here in the open. If you put him into your own tackle zone, then he is forced to stay there unless he wants to dodge. Now, of course, there's a lot of variables here with him blitzing your tackle zones away or having stunty or leap and so on. There's a lot of things to consider, but always think this way. If you're pushing him away, then he can simply move into the exact square where you thought you didn't want him. or even move into a square that's even worse. Limiting your opponent's choices is really an important aspect of Blood Bowl, as that's what really makes him make mistakes or hinders him playing. Now, as a reward for listening to me talk for this long, I'll leave you with this last advice. Remember to have fun, and we all know turn 16 fouling is the most fun to be had ever. Well, this has been Deluge. I hope you have learnt something, and in the next episode I'll be talking about passing, and I'll give my opinion in the good old discussion of wrestle versus block.